It was one of those mornings that seemed like any other, yet would come to define the rest of my life. My name is Mike, the proud owner of Mike's Custom Auto Shop in Phoenix, where I spend my days working on everything from sleek Teslas to vintage Mustangs. My ex-wife, Sandy, was an English teacher, a woman with the rare ability to make Shakespeare come alive for high school students. She inspired her pupils to embrace classic literature, and her passion for words made her unforgettable. Our story began in 2018 at a car exhibition in Arizona, under a breathtaking sunset. Picture this: hundreds of polished vehicles gleaming under the sky, and there she was, Sandy, standing next to a smoke-billowing Chevy Blazer. The engine was misfiring in a way that would have sent most mechanics running, but not me. I walked right up and offered to help. 3 hours later, we found ourselves devouring burgers from a food truck, laughing as if we'd known each other for years. I marveled at her knowledge of poetry and her ability to bring beauty to the most broken things, while she was captivated by my odd talent for identifying cars by their tail lights alone. In the 5 years that followed, we built a life that seemed perfect. Our neighbors loved us. We were the hosts of weekly backyard barbecues and pool parties that spilled over into endless laughter. Every Tuesday, Sandy's famous wings were the highlight of our gatherings, drawing friends and family from miles around. Our 2 dogs, Sadie, a clever border collie who could open doors, and Bandit, a goofy golden retriever who thought he was a lapdog, completed our little family. We took monthly camping trips in our vintage Winnebago, which I had painstakingly restored. It was our sanctuary, a place where we could escape the world together. Our travels were mapped out with pins, blue for places we dreamed of visiting, and red for the ones we'd already explored. But like any story of love, there's always a shadow lurking just beneath the surface. The cracks didn't appear all at once, but rather, they came in small, almost imperceptible ways. Sandy started attending yoga on Saturday mornings, something I didn't think much of at first. Yet, she began returning home with flawless hair and makeup, an odd thing for someone coming from a yoga class. I chalked it up to coincidence or vanity. But deep down, something felt off. Then came the phone, the old iPhone she insisted on keeping as a backup. She had just received a new one the week before, but the old one, tucked away on our kitchen counter where we had just shared breakfast, would soon unravel everything. That morning, as I sipped my coffee, I noticed the text that appeared on the screen. The message made my heart stop. It was about Sandy's undergarments, followed by a mention of how much she was looking forward to spending the weekend with someone else, while I was supposed to be away at a car show in Vegas. The sender? Martin. The same Martin I had met at school events, the gym instructor who had been eating my food, drinking my beer, and, unknown to me, sleeping with my wife. It was as if time slowed down. My mind raced. My hands trembled, but I remained calm, just like I would when diagnosing an issue with a car. I opened the thread and saw the lies unfold. 5 months of secret meetings, 5 months of deception, and 5 months of my wife betraying me. They had even gone to a hotel in Scottsdale, just 20 minutes from our home, while she had claimed to be away at a teaching conference in Tucson. The pain was unbearable, but I held it together. I recalled calling her every night while she was supposedly away, telling her how much I missed her. Most people would have lost it in that moment, shouting, throwing things, raking whatever was in reach. I had learned something important in my years as a mechanic, though. When faced with a problem, you stay composed, you think logically, and you plan your next move. So, that's exactly what I did. I documented everything: screenshots, video recordings, and even backup copies. My friend Jason, a lawyer, had always emphasized the importance of documenting everything, and I took his advice to heart. For 2 weeks, I played my part perfectly. Every morning, I brought her coffee, kissed her goodbye, and went about my day as if nothing had changed. I made sure to capture every detail: texts, phone calls, and even Martin's awkward performance at a school fundraiser, where I was present and watching as they acted like strangers. I had a plan now. I opened a new bank account, ordered a checkbook, rented an apartment close to my shop, and hired a divorce lawyer. I organized everything, made triplicate copies of vital documents, and even backed up all my files. Then came the weekend of the car show in Vegas. Sandy assumed I was going, so I packed my bags, said my goodbyes, and left. But instead of heading to Vegas, I drove somewhere else, away from the life I thought I knew, and toward the new one that awaited. I parked my truck just down the street from Martin's apartment building at precisely 7 p.m. The blue Chevy Cavalier pulled up, and Sandy stepped out with an overnight bag in hand, looking like she was off to a romantic retreat. The sight of her walking towards his door, where they would play house together, felt like a punch to my gut. I snapped photos and videos, my stomach churning with every click of the camera, my mind racing with a mix of anger and betrayal. The divorce papers were already on our kitchen counter, next to her wedding ring. I had executed my plan, packed my things, taken the dogs, and left. I even left her a letter, with all the documents stored on a USB stick. It was my quiet parting shot, an acknowledgement of her choice to do yoga with Martin. Apparently, both of them had become experts at twisting the truth. The next day, the fallout was nuclear. Sandy texted and called in furious bursts. How could I invade her privacy? How could I go through her things? She cried, pleaded, and questioned how I could do this to her. When the school found out, they told her she couldn't continue a relationship with Martin while working there. The irony of it all was bittersweet. Despite their best efforts to hide the affair, it unraveled quickly. Friends who had once adored us were shocked, but the truth came out, especially when they realized that Wing Tuesdays had been canceled because Sandy had been spending those evenings with Martin. It was a cruel revelation, but it made sense in hindsight. Divorce, messy as it was, wasn't as painful as I thought. Sandy wanted a share of my auto shop, but since I'd owned it long before we met, her lawyer tried to paint me as a controlling and envious husband. The judge, however, wasted no time shutting that down. Infidelity, after all, doesn't fall under marital privacy. 8 months have passed since that day. I moved into a smaller house with a spacious yard for the dogs, and my shop, which is doing better than ever, remains my pride and joy. Sandy moved to California, and Martin took a teaching job in Oregon. Sometimes I scroll through our old camping photos, our smiles, the sunsets at the Grand Canyon, and I wonder if, while we were watching that horizon, she was thinking about him instead of me. The hardest part wasn't the divorce or moving out. It was the wondering. Did she wish he had been there instead of me? But that's the thing about rock bottom. It's a good place to start over, even if the questions sting more than any of the lies. I've made a lot of changes since then. I started teaching a car repair class at the community center, and Wing Tuesdays became a classic car meetup at my shop. I even began coaching Little League, something I've always wanted to do. Life, as strange as it may seem, kept moving forward, and I found joy in the simplest things. Sandy sent me a lengthy, 10-page email last week. She apologized for everything, for the pain she caused, for the lies and the distance. She said she missed our house, our dogs, and our camping trips. She said she thinks about our life together every single day. But you know what I did? My new girlfriend, Ashley, and I took that letter, filmed a TikTok about it, and then burned it. Ashley, who also loves camping and animals, is a paramedic who doesn't need makeup for yoga because she doesn't need to lie about where she's going. She's real. The world has a funny way of putting people in your life when you least expect it. When people asked if I should have reached out to Sandy, maybe tried to make things work, I realized something. Trust, once broken, cannot be fixed. Like a damaged car, you can repair its parts and get it running again, but the cracks never go away. The strange thing is, compared to the last few months of my marriage, when I was still alive but emotionally numb, I am happier now. My business is thriving. The car karma has been good to me. And next summer, Ashley and I are planning a trip to Yellowstone. The dogs are thriving too. No more avoiding the bedroom due to size restrictions or dietary issues. Life, it turns out, has a way of surprising you. I've learned some valuable lessons from all this. Trust your instincts. Surround yourself with good friends. Keep a journal. And most importantly, remember that your lowest point is just the starting point for your next chapter. Thank you for reading. Never forget, life goes on after betrayal. And sometimes, it's even better than it was before. Oh, and by the way, Wing Tuesdays? Much better now that I've turned them into classic car meetups. As for the dogs, Bandit still believes he's a lap dog, and Sadie had to childproof the fridge after figuring out how to open it. I've got a new phone number, and I updated all my passwords. I don't miss Wing Tuesdays. Ashley says hello and thanks for all the paramedic love. Pizza Fridays are way better than Tuesday, and life keeps going. Remember, while you have no control over the circumstances, you do have control over how you respond. Choose happiness. Choose truth. And maybe check your old phones every once in a while. Just saying.